Hey, welcome to Indian Cine-MANIACS. What's going on, Cine-MANIACS?
Hey.
Hello.
Not
Ralph,
much.
are you wearing a different shirt? You look different. I don't know what's
Something's
going on.
different. Yeah.
You look good there, man.
You
This
look
film
like
the film we're going to talk about called The Last Film Show, I believe, is the actual official name.
Yep.
The kid's hair was a character in the film.
Yeah.
And I just could not take my eyes off that kid's hair. And I thought it was appropriate for me to possibly wear it. I think I was going to take it off, but I think I'm going to leave it on.
No, I
I think
think
I may take it off later.
leave
it looks
it
so
on.
natural. People won't
So-
even know.
Well,
I want to say
go ahead, Sean.
that, after talking about what hat I should wear on that previous episode, some people recommended that I wear a turban.
Is that
And
what that
I
is?
got myself a turban.
When you say some of them, one person?
One person out of how many people in India said that? And you okay.
What's the population of India? It's big, right?
Well,
I
I
think
think
in the
each
billions,
person,
isn't it?
Population of people.
Okay.
I
One guy
think that
said, hey,
each person
Sean in a turban would be cool.
represents 100 million people.
Well, listen,
Each one of our comments.
we have a lot of views on these, so let's keep that going. If they want to see you in that, and Debbie can keep.
Listen, if they
the
want us to all
bindi.
wear turbans and bindis, we'll do it.
I know my head's going to start sweating in a minute, so I'll probably take this off. But
'Cause you-
the film, we're going to talk about the film, and then we're going to spin the wheel. We have, I think, 5 left on the wheel.
And then we populate again.
Yeah, I know. It's funny in our comments. No matter what we put on the wheel, they want us to do all these other films, and I just don't know how to handle this. It's like
Well,
I'm
a
trying
lot of
to.
the films they're recommending are scheduled to be on the wheel later. Because
Eventually, yes, but we
I
can't.
gave
I
you
don't
like
want to
because
put.
there's
40 of
Indian
them.
films.
It's daunting if we put 120 on the wheel. It feels like this thing will never end. So I mean,
Well,
Well,
listen,
let's hope
I
it
got to
never
tell you, my
does.
little 10-minute thing, I did a poll, and I put 5 movies up, and 300 people responded, and they're all bitching about the 5 movies that were based on what they wanted me to put on. So I don't know what to do. I mean, so whatever.
all right. Well, who wants to talk about? Who wants to give us a breakdown of, or a little synopsis of the film we're going to do tonight? Called.
I'll be
The Last
happy to
Film Show.
read the Internet Movie Database.
Are you going to do it dramatically, or are you going to do it?
Well, I guess I could, because this is a very cinematic movie. So
it is very cinematic.
tonight's movie is about a boy named Same who fights heaven and earth to find light. He wants to catch, control, cut, and project the light to tell stories. Now, to pursue that dream, he must leave everything he loves and take a flight to find the light.
Well, really a train, but
Scene.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Okay,
And it has lions.
This movie is about a young boy who lives in a village that, with all the Indian movies we've seen, we've never seen this before. At least I haven't. And it's how he finds his love of cinema. And that's really what the movie's about. And it's a tribute to cinema also.
it's a love letter. It's a poem.
It
to
is a
cinema.
love letter.
It's
And
It's
a
the
movie.
Indian.
I will use, this is the
Cinema
first time
Paradiso.
I will
Yes,
use
it
this
is.
term, because Ralph uses it all the time. This was a really charming movie. And for someone, look, we're all lovers of movies. That's why we do this. But one of the things I know I did as a kid, I used to make Super 8 movies with my friends, and I was just watching him with the kids. And as he discovers film, it reminded me, and I think the movie, I had gone to movies when I was a kid. I saw Willy Wonka, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
All the scary ones.
Well, that's true. This
Oof.
Child Catcher, but I remember there's 2 movies where I had a visceral reaction watching it. The first one was Star Wars at the beginning when the ship comes across. I just remember that so vividly, and how that really started my love of science fiction. But also, Ralph and I saw the New England premiere of Superman, and the scene where he rescues the helicopter. We were in a full theater with critics, and they were all clapping like little kids. And watching him see that movie for the first time brought me back to that. And the whole movie progresses, even though, look, the kid was kind of a juvenile delinquent with the stuff he was doing throughout the movie. But even at the beginning, they talk about, they mentioned David Lean, Stanley Kubrick, the Lumiere brothers, and even at the end,
Chaplin, Buster
they bring up
Keaton.
Keaton and Chaplin at the end. So
Spielberg.
you know that the director of this film had a love for theater, and the
Oh my
way
God.
they the light theme is such a big theme because they kept shooting through prisms, and the way he built his own movie camera, a projector, excuse me, and how he was doing all these horrible things just to be able to watch and hopefully make movies. And then for me, this little boy, who I don't know if he ever did anything before, but there wasn't a ton of dialogue, so most of it was done with his facial expressions. And that scene at the end where, and this movie was 2021, so, is this a spoiler? I don't know if it is or not. He finds out where this disregarded film goes from that cinema that he first fell in love with the movies. And that whole scene where they went through every process of what was happening to the film and his reaction to it, and then where it ended up in those colored bracelets and stuff, the look on his face, realizing what was happening to this, what he considered to be gold, right, was just an amazing performance by that kid. I mean, I just couldn't believe how well he did. And this also had a vibe like Stars on Earth. A young boy, kind of out of the norm, and this projectionist takes him under his wing, and through that projectionist gets his love of theater. So that last scene where he goes on the train to go his journey of filmmaking, he's saying goodbye to all the people in his life. And, his father was all against it. And then that one scene where he had all his friends watching movies in this.
And his mother.
Right. And his mother. And the father
making,
just
and
sits
making
at
the
the back
sounds.
the father goes in to beat
Great
him
scene.
with
Great
a
scene.
stick. And instead he sees everybody watching the movie and everything that went into doing this movie. And then the father drops the stick and turns around and realizes, how important this is, and frankly, how good this kid is with this stuff. So that was just a beautiful scene. I just loved this movie from a love of film standpoint, as well as it was a great story. And again, I'll say one more time, I found that kid amazing with what he was able to do without saying much. And even the relationship, it reminded me of Stand By Me a little bit, his relationship with the kids, his fellow kids. So I absolutely loved this movie. And it was a really sweet, and it was not a long movie either. It was a very sweet movie. Charming.
Very charming.
Yeah.
Sean, again, anybody else want to say anything? Obviously.
You did.
Well, this film reminded me of Cinema Paradiso.
100%.
Yep.
And I loved it from the beginning. It's what film is all about. It changes lives. It's all encompassing. When you see a film, such beautiful concepts, a child looking at light, understanding, light is what we use to make film. And it's just fascinating how it's this story by Pan Nalin, or I don't know if I'm saying the name correctly.
He even said it's inspired by, he inspired by, I forget the director he mentioned right at the top. Maybe it was Stanley Kubrick.
Well, it's also based on his life as well. Like, he came from a small village and
really?
he made it
That's
in this industry. Yeah. It's not a straight autobiographical film, but it's one of those, like, I lived a version of this, as far as wanting
Inspired
these things,
by,
falling in love with these things. And that was really quite beautiful too, I think.
Yeah, I love this film, and this was the film that India wanted nominated for the Oscars, right?
Yeah, that's what they submitted instead of RRR.
And, as much as the fact that, R&R is a great film, this is a different kind of film.
Yeah.
And I could see, they say it's political or something with RRR, but historically the Oscars have loved films about films. Look how many of them have won Oscars in the past.
And I didn't know that this was the film. And I have to admit that I think it's a tough call between those two.
Between RR and this film?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This film is gorgeous. This film, I mean, the poetry is beautiful.
And I tell you what I loved was the railroad tracks with that multicolored glass that he had on it.
The way they played with the color and the light and the glass was just beautiful. And even the scene where they're faking the widescreen, where they're shooting through the cardboard while the kid's on the bike and the kids are running around with it. It's just like, that's just great.
Not to mention every shot was framed with the greenery.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. The way
it was beautiful. And I love, this is an area of India I don't think we've seen yet in a movie.
I don't. This is an interesting.
What
And
did you-
they had
That's a
the
train
gear
stop, right?
lions.
The
That was a train
lions.
stop.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I would love to hear the comments about those lions. If the children really, you know, the lions didn't bother those kids at all, but I'm thinking, wow, where's their
This
mom?
was an area, if I ever went to India, I'd love to see because it's the last area with lions. I believe there's still some Asiatic lions in Iran too, maybe near the Caspian
Well, he did
Sea.
some shots through the wheat field, whatever those fields were, where the kid's
Oh,
hand
yeah.
comes up through the wheat.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we can talk about the cinematography and all that.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank God that a film about film and the beauty of film and light had such wonderful cinematography.
Yeah.
You know, this is a very moving film. I mean, when I was a kid, I can't remember how old I was when I started going to the theaters. I mean, I was one of originally 5 kids, and there was a Oops kid that came along later. But, you know, I'm sure my mother was happy to give me money to go to the movies to get, you know, just to have
Out of her way.
out of her way. And I couldn't have been more than 10, 11, or 12 when I was going to the neighborhood movie theaters, essentially alone. Night stay all day.
It
Usually
was my
a double
mother who got
feature.
me in. My mother's the one who brought me to my first film.
Yeah. I think the first film I saw in the theater was The Adventures of Bullwhip something or other. Last name. It was a Disney movie.
How
Either
old
that
were
or
you?
Jungle Book. Bullwhip Wilson, maybe. You know, but I was very young. I think my grandfather brought me to that one, and my parents brought me to Jungle Book. But, you know, I mean, I've had like a lifelong love of the movies, and this film really brought it back. And, you know.
Well, it's the same. We keep comparing it to Cinema Paradiso. I mean, it is basically, it's the same thing. You know, remember in Cinema Paradiso, it's the girlfriend who says, you need to go away and then come back. In this one, it's his teacher saying, you need to go and learn English.
Right.
Because if you learn English, you'll be able to do a lot more than if you just stay here. The projectionist becomes such a big influence in his life. Food.
Yeah.
I mean, the food in this was just like the
Oh.
lunchbox. Where
I was going to say,
the
I like
food-
seeing that
Yeah.
lunchbox style again.
Yeah.
It was
It's like, oh, that
beautiful,
looks good.
and I adored his mother. His
Yeah.
mother,
Oh yeah.
that she's packing his lunch. The
But- and the
scenes of
reverence.
making the food
That's
was
right.
just,
The
just
reverence.
was just as beautiful as the scenes of shooting through the glass, and they're looking forward. The projectionist is looking forward to that. I mean, it's all the things that we've been seeing in these films that makes us keep wanting to come back and watch these, because that idea of 2 people sitting and enjoying a meal together, a guy, you know, and we're not adding our crap that we have to deal with all the time about what this old guy with this young kid. It doesn't matter. It's just a guy showing this kid the love of film and little love of food, and it's just I just couldn't get over how it reminded me of so many different things. And
what about the father? And it explained to me a little bit about the caste system and how even though he was selling chai tea, he was of a higher caste than
Brahmin,
some.
yeah.
You know, so that's in a way I heard
until
it.
they told him they're going to get rid of everything at his.
Yeah.
I mean,
He once had-
devastating. That
He
guy.
once had 500 cows.
Yeah.
I thought he was
was a
going to kill
cowboy,
himself.
now
At one
he's a
point,
chai
I
boy.
thought, yeah, I
I
thought,
thought he was
yeah,
gonna
right.
kill himself.
But his brother stole his cows.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why I
was-
like that line that Mr. Dave, the teacher, said. It's basically like there aren't castes anymore. There's only 2 castes. Either you know English or you
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen some version of that through a bunch of the films that we've watched that are set in the modern era, and that lives are very different. And of course, you know, if you want to, like, it didn't surprise me when all these people came over to promote RRR, all the actors and the director and everything, they all speak English. You know, it's just, that's what you do. If you're educated and successful, you speak English.
It's the equalizer. And in their society, what I've been understanding from people that I've been talking to from the Indian crowd, they say that the people that believe in the caste system still today are either very rich or very poor.
Yeah,
And
makes sense.
and the people that are, you know, somewhat educated, they don't hold to that caste system. Like you're born into something, you have to be that.
Well, you know, our fans, our people who watch the show, say that, you know, in the West and even on the podcast, we make too much of the caste system. But in this film, it's definitely a factor. You know, the father prohibits the son from saying you can never make movies because our cast that's not allowed. It would be degrading for someone in that cast. And then also in the last film we watched, Nayatu, there was certainly a cast issue involved in that, but yeah, the teacher was like, if you want to be successful, learn English and get out of this village,
Yeah, we'll talk about that end shot.
Baltimore.
That end shot where he gets on the train is that's something. Mr. Cranky, Chris, what do you think?
Well, guys, I absolutely love this film.
Okay, good. Oh,
I never know.
I got a little worried there for a second.
I know. No, I mean, this movie's so right up my alley. It's not even. It's like all of us, like you mentioned, we all watch movies. We all love movies. Probably most of the people who sit and listen to us, blather on, love movies as well. I will say this though, I really think that this is one of the most beautiful films we've watched from India. And that's not to say that the other ones aren't beautiful. In fact,
different. No, you're right. You're right.
I'm racking my brain to think of a movie that didn't look good. Do you know what I mean? There's obviously no dearth of quality cinematographers and DPs in the Indian cinema world. But this one I just felt was gorgeous. I mean, there was stuff that there was a scene of the father standing next to the pole filled with the pennants, and it was obviously shot probably at magic hour, and it just had that beautiful soft glow to it. And I could have just watched that one shot of this guy who's working hard to try to provide, to try to be something for his family, and he seems to have terrible luck. Yeah. And that's why I really found it very, very powerful at the end of the film, where he finally kind of puts aside all of his prejudices, you might say, his preconceived notions, and says, go. Even though he beats his son all the time, he obviously loves him very much, and he loves him enough that he wants him to go so he can have a shot. Even though it is, let's be realistic, it is probably as hard to break into Indian film as it is in American films. It's probably no easy thing, and if you know somebody, it helps. But it was really just a gorgeous movie. I did really enjoy I like the kids together. I thought it was I also like the fact that, it was such an economical film, in the sense that, hey, we know about the dad. We know that his brother stole his cows and basically ruined him and put him on a path to, basically a little more than subsistence living. However, I will say this, his wife was obviously, and like you mentioned, the scenes of her and the food, she's an artist in her own right.
Yeah.
And just, hey, as bad as things are, at least you can enjoy what she was creating. I eat.
And always shot from up above.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way it was done, and how she had all of her spices and all of her elements that she was, obviously crushing and putting together. Just everything about this movie I thought was terrific. About the only thing that I had a problem with being a film guy is that I really felt bad for all those people that had their reels stolen.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Kind of like I would have been enraged if I got to the end of the movie and reel 6 was gone, or like you said, it jumps in the middle and you're like, wait a minute, what happened there? But that's obviously kind of a joke and a minor issue. But yeah, just a terrific film. Like I said, I thought it was very economical. I like the fact that you felt like you knew the kids that he was with, but you didn't really know their names. They didn't really get into this as, hey, this is this guy and he's the crazy one, and this is this guy and he's the smart one. And they didn't get into all that. It was just kind of a group of kids all running around, but obviously focused on I keep wanting to call him Sammy, but I know that's not
Samai. Yeah.
Samai. That's right. And
what does that mean? Nothing time. What was the name?
Time.
All they had was time.
Right.
And then they ended up with him.
Right.
But just from top to bottom, a great film. And like I said, probably, I don't know. I just kept finding myself just drawn in by the visual experience, which, let's be real, cinema is a visual medium. So obviously that, and you know what? It's funny that you mentioned it, Sean. I mean, I can understand why they put this one maybe forward, and there was probably a lot of politics and things like that going into it. They probably knew that, the Academy loves certain kinds of movies.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
no, I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I can't deny the love of
this feels
RRR.
like
No
Oscar.
question. No
You
question.
know what I mean?
RRR.
Like, and
But-
not like a negative way, but this feels like, hey,
No, but you're right.
we're gonna pick the
RRR
one
isn't.
we
If
think
it was
they're
an
gonna-
American film, it wouldn't win an Oscar. A film like this
Yeah.
would be the
No,
Oscar winner.
I mean, no. This is. I can understand why they would put
Yeah.
this one up.
Okay, a show of hands. How many people thought that there was going to be a fire?
Where at the
At the
In
movie
middle,
theater.
The middle.
Oh,
I
sure.
thought it was burned down. That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
that's what
Yeah,
I thought
it was
too.
going to
Yeah.
be burned down too.
Yeah, but I mean, John
But-
talked about that scene. That scene was the one. The one criticism I have is that scene. It took me out of because it was. I guess that's the point. It's just I kept thinking there's no way they let that kid run around that factory like that.
Well,
so that's
yeah,
just
I mean,
that's just me being
Child
ridiculous.
labor.
no. I thought the
But-
same thing, but
But that scene where they show him jumping into all
Yeah.
that film, which by the way, if the match hit that, he'd
Right.
be that's horrible.
and when he hugged the camera.
He kissed the
Oh.
camera. He kissed the camera.
I mean,
When
in
they
that scene.
destroyed the camera. Oh,
No, that was
I can
that
feel
to
it in
me.
your heart.
No, the one scene that to me was the horror psycho scene is when they cut to the computers up
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
new projection. It's like oh my god, that's horrible.
moving into our world.
And the
huh?
guy
Right.
couldn't work because he didn't speak English.
Right.
Yeah, the teacher's words were finally paid off.
Yeah. Yeah. Just an amazing and no, I'm and help me
And the
with
kid's
this.
hair, as you said earlier.
The whole
As you're
idea
demonstrating.
the women became an important women in general became an important part of this film because he ends up on the train in that women only track and they're all
Right.
wearing the bracelets obviously that are the film having a new
Repurposed.
life
Right.
through these women.
And
Reincarnation.
I thought that was very touching. That when he looked at those bracelets, he thought of great films.
Well, that ending in the credits where they read all the names of all the famous directors and directors I've never heard of, but I know probably are amazing directors.
Now, imagine if we were an Indian. We were Indian. All those, I'm sure, great care was chosen for each of those films
Oh yeah.
that they picked for the theaters.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure this movie would have resonated much more if we were familiar with each of those films.
I kept
It's
hoping
funny you say that
Lagan would
because
show up.
when I was
I'm sorry, say that again, Drew. What?
I said I kept hoping Lagan would show up because it was.
Well, he mentioned
2010.
Amir Khan got called out
Yeah,
in this.
but there was
Yeah.
I mean,
when
one
they
of the
showed
movies.
the two things.
One of the movies they showed is called what's it called? Joda Akbar. It was one of the big historical epic ones, and that's by the director of Lagan. So when I saw that and I recognized the title, I haven't seen the movie. I was like, "Oh, we're not going to get Lagan now."
Yeah.
But that was funny because when I saw those two movies, I recognized two of the actors. One of them
Yeah.
I just watched Hrithik. What's his name?
Hrithik Roshan, yeah,
Roshan,
Hrithik
who was
Roshan.
in Doom, bad guy in Doom 2, and Amitabh Bachchan, who I was in the Thugs of Hindostan. So I was like, oh my God, I recognize Indian actors
Isn't that fun?
in a
I thought
film
it was
within a
fun.
film. How
Yeah.
many of these films were
Yeah.
we watching? I was like, this is so
Yeah.
cool.
No,
Yeah.
it was such a beautifully done scene, and that scene where he gets on at the train. Okay, that scene where he leaves his village,
Yeah.
and he's
And
passing.
the whole village.
He's passing.
for
Now
it.
that is I'm going to say this. That's kind of a trope to do that thing where everybody's in a line. But you know what? Who
Not
cares?
kind of a trope. It is a trope, but that didn't take
It was
away from it.
beautiful to have
Right.
everybody waving to him and go,
Right.
"You got to go, you got to go."
Right.
And the way that kid, you're right, that kid, that scene where he closes his eyes and he's crying, and then he wipes his tears and goes, "Okay, this is my new life. I'm going forward."
Mhm.
And I mean, how can you not love the film? I mean, it's just an
But this is-
amazing.
to me, this is also a film that, I listen to people when COVID hit, people stopped going to the theaters, and now they're having trouble getting people back in the theaters. And to me, what this film really spoke to me about was the experience of watching a film in a theater.
Yeah.
Is so different than a big screen TV in
Right.
your house. And there are people out there who don't believe that. They think it's the same thing, and it's just not.
It's
and
the shared
especially-
experience.
It
It's
is.
the-
It should be a shared experience.
I can remember going in projection booths and just be like, "Wow, this is an amazing place to be." The smell of the film, the smell of the
Yeah.
light. It's all visceral stuff that you don't
Right.
get with digital media and all the ease that we have to do this.
Ralph, what was your experience? How did you get to go into the film?
I applied for a projectionist position at one of the local movie theaters we had back in Massachusetts, and I got to go up inside them, and to see these big giant discs of film,
the reels.
and actually it is the
Platters.
smell and the tactile feeling you have. That thing where he's picking up film and he's making the cuts. Every time they press that thing, I was like, oh, I know what that feels like. That's such, and you pull the tape over and you put two scenes together from film. You just can't. That's an experience you can't.
But how old were you when you did that?
I think I'm one of the
I must have been
last.
15.
Yeah, so imagine an 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid doing that.
No, I know. I
recently
mean, but this
started
kid,
seeing-
I mean, this film projects this kid as wise beyond his years. This kid
I
was
know,
an old,
but he's
he
still
was
a
an old
kid.
soul. Old soul. Listen,
I
what
don't
I
know.
get out,
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I liked the idea. Like there's a way you could have done this movie where it's about a guileless, innocent child. And I like that he wasn't. I mean, he was a real gangster and he stole stuff and he was very focused on his goal, which, by the way, is one of the things you could say about a lot of the most successful people in the movies, especially the ones they name check at the end, is that you have to be so driven.
Relentless,
So when
yeah.
you see what he does, you're like, I don't know what he's going to do, but you know, he's going to do something. Because what
He'll be
is
good
he
at
when he goes out on his own? Was he 10 or something? I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Probably.
And he kept getting beat every time he skipped school to watch movies, and he kept going back.
Yeah, right.
all
This
those
is the
scenes-
first Indian film where a child is beaten.
No.
Well, his mother
kidding,
even
they're all
smacked
happens
him.
all
His
the
mother
time.
even smacked him.
Yeah, but his
but here's
mother.
the thing. He
Oh,
gave
his
up
mother.
his lunch.
I love his mother.
Yeah.
His mother.
His beautiful,
oh my
his
God.
beautiful lunch he gave up every day.
I know.
Yeah, but he didn't like some of
Yeah,
that
he
food.
wasn't
He didn't like what is it? Okra.
Oh,
No
you like
okra,
okra
yeah.
now?
Okra.
I don't like okra. You like okra?
This is the one. This is a film. I don't remember seeing Stand By Me when it came out, but this film definitely made me feel like these are young boys as young boys.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah, it felt
thrill
good.
of just being a kid
That hung out.
running around in the
Yeah.
fields. There's one scene where they run into that area where there's just water and a tree in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Where that just felt to me like that's what it felt like being a young kid just running around doing your thing. And they all looked up to this guy.
Yeah.
And that scene where you're talking about that movie scene where he creates a projector and everybody comes walking in. Everybody from the town was in there except his
Right.
dad, which is what got him so upset and then ultimately turned the whole thing. Just a beautiful sentiment about what it's like to grow up and just the wonder of what you're doing and all those kids running around with the film strips on their faces they're writing.
But even the
I
way
mean-
he figured it out when he made his first projector and he couldn't figure out why it wasn't working, and then the projectionist told him about the shutter,
Right.
and the way they did that, I just thought that was so cool and clever, and then when they did their own sound effects, because he figured he had an epiphany, right? He goes, "Hey, I know how we can do this."
We need sound.
Yeah, and it was just
I had the same feeling at the end of this one that I did at the end of Cinema Paradiso, where the guy comes back and watches the scenes that they saved for him, which was just a devastatingly awesome tear-jerking scene. I felt that way on the train, especially when they hung on that kid while he was crying on the train. And the way he wiped the tears away and got up and started walking to his next adventure, I'm like, it's a home
and then
run.
they had a film break, like at the end of a film reel.
Yeah.
when it went
Right.
to white.
And when they called out all the directors, it was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is
Which
well
is funny
done, well done.
because people that are younger than us, and I know I'm a lot younger than you guys, but people that are
Yeah.
younger than us, they don't know what a cigarette burn is.
right.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know that experience of waiting for the real change or any of that kind of stuff. And I'm not one of those people. Like, I don't. Here's the thing about this movie. I didn't realize until you get towards the end of it and that very sad scene, where he's diving into the pile of film that's being thrown out and all that stuff. It's not last movie show, last picture show, Bogdanovich. All that. It's specifically last film show, and I didn't realize how much it was because shooting on film is one of those things that's very romanticized, and I'm not a snob. I'll watch movies shot on whatever the director thinks they should be shot on, and sometimes you can tell and sometimes you can't, but there's a reason that a lot of these digitally shot movies, people try to put grain back in, things like that. And when I think about these movies, like a lot of movies are finished these days, brand new modern giant movies are finished in 2K. So when you want to make it a 4K thing or later an 8K thing, you're going to have a problem. You're not going to have a problem up-resing as much as you want Touch of Evil, for example, which is shot on film. I mean, it's almost like having infinite resolution, and there's
Right.
nothing that really looks like it. And this movie really captured, this whole movie is about what we've been saying, which is this magic of I'm usually a little kid. I mean, there are people who have never been to a movie till they're an adult, and I feel sorry that they missed out on that. But if it gets you, it gets you, and of course, it gets a lot of people. I mean, this movie reminded me of The Fabelmans, with a young filmmaker and being innovative and creative, and building a team of things just to make something yourselves in a world with examples of why you don't do that, or you're smart, nobody respects you, or your dad is ashamed of his life, or all these other things. And that kid really kept that joy going. And he made, like, watching his friends when he left, when they were in the line of people, watching how sad they were, like, you knew, like, that's somebody special. We're not going to know anybody like that again. That was really special. And it made me sad. Also, I learned about the kid who played Manu. The actor's name was Rahul Kohli. He died of leukemia like a week before the movie came out.
That's too
in
bad. Which
October
one? Which
in
kid
India.
was he?
He's one of his friends. I think he's actually the last one in the line of his friends saying goodbye. He's either the last one or the second to last one. I don't remember the order. But like, if you Google Rahul Kohli, you'll be like, okay, I know which kid that is.
Yeah, I read that. Friends. I didn't know which kid it was.
Yeah, and so that was a little bittersweet thing. But the other thing it really reminded me of was Babylon, because Babylon is a movie about how people see the magic on the screen and they want to be part of it so bad that they will do anything. And in that version of the movie world and classic Hollywood, you will be ground up by the system. And so it's very tragic. But at the end of the movie, there's a whole thing like Cinema Paradiso, where, this isn't a spoiler if you haven't seen it, but it's essentially a series of clips of movies, and you recognize all of them, and it's sort of showing you all the wonder of movies and all this kind of stuff. And it didn't really work. If I remember Cinema Paradiso, it's movie Kisses, I think.
Yeah,
He
saved all the kisses.
And I remember that was beautiful in a movie.
Well, and his reaction to what he was seeing was devastating.
Well, but that feeling of like the power of movies and what it all feels like to see them and stuff, this movie captured that with plastic bracelets. Like it was just amazing, because they were so beautiful and still. And I don't know. I thought it was a really special movie, and I will say honestly, I did not bring any pro RRR bias to the movie or anything, but I want to thank our commenters, because we've been exploring, and we've been encouraged to do this, and I think it's right. We've been encouraged to explore the various different industries and regions of Indian film that we don't. And learn why their movies are different and everything. And we don't really have an analog for that in America. So it's been really interesting to see that division of geography and money and storytelling and culture and language. And this is the first movie that we've watched from Dollywood. It's DHOLLY, Dollywood, which is the Gujarati film, the Gujarati cinema. And I don't know. I mean, not every movie we watch is going to be amazing, but just to see, like, this is very distinctly different from the Malayalam movies we've watched, and the Tamil movies we've watched, and the Telugu movies we've watched. And I love it. I just think it's so exciting. And I know that people want us to watch all these movies because they feel that way about all these movies. And
yeah, they love the movies the same way.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
Do. And they're sharing their love with us.
Right. And this movie captured that. And I thought that was really beautiful. And I would say, honestly, I found this movie very satisfying.
Oh, I agree.
Even Grumpy.
And even Grumpy liked it. And the idea of looking at things from a different perspective.
Yes.
And we were seeing everything from a kid's perspective. Even the angles they're doing when they're even shooting, it's all from their perspective. And the line about light brings you stories, stories brings you movies, right? Or film, I think. I can't remember exactly I'm paraphrasing, but I think that was the idea, that the light creates the story, and I'm going to take the stories and I'm going to create a movie. And this kid's going to go on to do that. That's what he's going to do.
You have to be a liar, which I thought was really interesting too. Like, it's not wholesome. He's like, you have to lie. Storytelling is lying. Wow. And the kid did all sorts of things that were lies. I mean, cutting school is a lie. Sneaking into things is a lie.
When you hear stories about people,
you understand why he did that, and it's amazing.
How these people made the movies they made, the hoops they had to go through. And speaking of hoops, talking about the bracelets, it's about how film lives on. Okay,
right.
They killed it. That scene where they drop that projector from the crane and it hits the ground, and there's your scene with the sledgehammers. It's devastating. But you realize, film lives on. It's going to live on in these people, and that's the beauty of what movies do, and that's the beauty of what film does and light does. And I think
they were beautiful, bright colors.
And
not to mention, Sean has a little bit of to bring the director. Just say that.
Okay. Well, I did share with the people that
Oh, you did.
we have scripts on. Debbie and I just sold a script. Well, it was an option called Final Table, and it was hosted. It was on a screenplay site called Inktip, and one of the people who clicked on it on Inktip was Pan Nalin Productions, which is the director of this
That's
film.
neat.
So if you watch this, we would love to talk to you.
Shameless plug.
I
You
know.
got to do
I'm
it.
not
No, but
ashamed.
it was
How the
it's
business works.
So
That is
flattering
actually
he
not
did
shameless.
that.
You're right.
I was really
Very much so.
The thing is, I didn't connect him with this movie, but I get a lot of clicks on the scripts I have up there. And when this one came up, I didn't know he was like a famous director, but I knew the name was Indian. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh, this is really great that an Indian, director clicked on one of my scripts. And I just thought that was great. And then here we are watching
the movie.
one of his movies.
That's
And I
great.
think he was that little boy, like you are portraying tonight, Ralph.
Yeah.
It's the hair. I couldn't get that kid's hair. And at the
Yeah,
end,
but
when he says to his dad, "I'll go cut it if you want," I'm like, "No, don't
No.
touch it." I mean,
No!
it was a little slicked down, a little greasy. That kid definitely was a dirty kid. You could tell that they,
But he
whatever.
had
But
hair.
he had a great head of
Right.
hair.
I
He
mean,
was
he
a-
had
that was
hair.
that
I
kid
will
That
was
was
say-
one of our best heads of hair in
he
a
was
while.
that kid was a good actor, and
He
I
wasn't a
couldn't
good
take my
actor.
eyes.
He was a very good actor.
Okay,
When
very
he
good
started
actor.
to walk through the factory, you guys were saying, I don't know if they would let a kid walk through the factory. I was immediately stressed out. I was like, how is he walking around bare feet? And then the camera pulled back and he had sandals on, and I exhaled in relief. I was like, I don't know if he should be there, but he shouldn't be
That's
there
the one
barefoot. I
fantasy
felt
part of
better.
the film. I mean, even when they grabbed the guy that drove them, I don't know how that happened. They bump into
That
some
was
guy
kind of
that
funny, yeah.
yeah, had the car.
Well,
How'd you like
at
that
the end of
close
it,
encounter
this is the
shot?
climax of a movie.
Did you notice the close encounter shot
No, I did not.
when he was standing there and the smelting was all golden?
Oh,
It was
yeah,
just
when he-
like
yeah.
that
Oh,
scene
yeah.
in the
They
Jordan.
also, in one of the
Beautiful.
montages, they used the 2001 theme.
Yeah.
Yes. they
So-
did.
And they used
You
a
know,
shot from a
A lot of call outs.
Yeah.
So I
Lot
don't
of
know if I
tropes.
have to say
A lot of tropes.
which one. Zuby do or Zuby don't. I think this is a big. I think everybody.
Everybody
you
loved
love
it. Everybody
even
loved
cinema.
it.
How could
Even
you not
Grumpy Chris
say
liked this one.
you do?
Hey,
Hey,
It was-
I
it
knew.
was short.
Listen, when I saw this movie, Chris, I knew you would love it. I knew you would love it because your reverence of film.
yeah.
How
Well,
could
you
you
know-
not?
I'm going to throw in one little thing that Sean kind of touched on about how, they're picking these films that obviously if we were Indian, they would have a lot more weight to them. But that scene they kept coming back to, the guys were doing that dance and it's of the woman who with the garden hose, like the beautiful young woman on the screen. And so like they're doing the dance in the projection booth. All I could think about that was that must have like the same cultural, like pop culture relevance as like Tom Cruise dancing in his underwear in Risky Business. Do you know what I mean?
Probably, yeah.
Like that scene from Risky Business has been parodied and so many times and has shown up in so many other ways. I wonder if that's the same kind of thing, like that little move that she was doing. And
all I know is those all
Yeah.
kids when they cut away to those kids all looking at that is how we look at that when we see these beautiful women dancing in these films. It's like
or
that.
whenever I
You
just
you just like this.
Debbie.
You just yeah. We know. Look at you two. Oh,
Specifically, Karina Kapoor.
Debbie's feeling it. I can see that.
yeah. These
Ralph's big into Taboo, but
taboo
Karina
is
Kapoor.
awesome.
Yeah, he got called out on
Listen,
that.
I
Someone
am-
could call
He
out
did
us,
get called
call us
I don't
out
think
on
that was. I don't think
No,
that was fair.
it was
we all
unfair.
love Taboo.
It
The
was
mother in this film, I was in love with. I
Yeah.
just loved. It reminded me so much of. I hate to say this, how my mother used to. I have vision remembering my mother putting me in the cab to kindergarten, but how much she loved me when she did it. I know she did with my little lunchbox, and I don't know. I have a lot of mixed feelings in this film, and I really enjoyed it. So
I liked when she said, "Hey, have you seen my white sari?" And the kid's like, "Yeah, I don't know." That was so funny.
And
It
it's
was the
on the
movie
movie screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
it's
movie
great.
screen.
It's just great.
yeah,
I think
He-
the
but
mother
he-
saw
he
it when
gave
she
her a
went to the
jar.
show.
he gave her a jar.
that
Yes, he
beautiful blue
did.
jar. Right.
Yeah. It all
All
worked
right,
out.
so let's see what the next set or the next film we're gonna do. John, you're not rooting for Doom 3, huh?
Well, because I've seen it.
Well, we have. Ooh, the tension.
Oh, that's it, right?
Nice.
Kamabongi Nights.
Kumbalangi Nights.
Kumbalangi.
Anyone know what that's about?
It's I believe, a family, a movie about 4 brothers and how they relate to each other and how one of them falls in love. And let's see how long it is. It is 2 hours and 15 minutes. This wheel is
What the heck?
These are easy peasy.
Thank God the other show we have to watch 2 movies.
That's the
every week,
first
but we
time
wouldn't
I've been
know what
wrong
to
on
do.
the
What?
wheel. And
You watched
this is
2?
3 out of 4 I got. So
All right. All right. So listen, I think I'm going to say I think this is one of the better films we have watched. I really enjoyed this one. Of all these. I mean, I know we're going to see hundreds of them and but I think this one's going to stick with me.
Well, I think it would stick with all of us. I mean, this is what we're doing. We're talking about film. So how could you not put this close to the top at least?
I'm just
Plus every
explaining
shot
how
was
it's
Very
framed.
relatable.
Every shot was framed.
And I think, John, this
Beautifully.
is where you would come in and say that this is why we should
What?
subscribe.
Ralph, you got the wig on. Just go for it.
Okay. Subscribe, hit the like button. Come on. We need some
Okay.
some views.
No, you're
We need
screwing
some-
that up.
Okay.
Subscribe, smash the like button. You gotta
Smash.
smash it. Because it
Well, this
affects
week
the
your
algorithm the
smash is
harder you
back,
hit
right.
it. And hit the notifications. Also, some people are saying that they're not getting notified even though they
why.
subscribe. Well,
Yeah.
I looked into that. Apparently, you have to have all notifications switched on your mobile device or you won't get notifications.
I mean, all for
that's-
every app they have?
Yeah. That's
Then
why
I don't blame them. Why would you want
I
to
know,
do that?
I know, but that's why you're not getting some of these notifications. So just FYI, it's nothing we're
wow.
doing, just so you know.
They're also suggesting the Indian one should be posted during Indian time. But
Yeah, but I've been doing that. So I've been scheduling them so that they get it around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning,
okay.
as
I-
opposed
If
to the
it's
middle. of
8
the night.
o'clock in India, what time is it in Baltimore?
Or Boston.
Murder time.
Well, I looked that up, so I just look up what time is it in India. That's what I
mean-
do.
Okay.
So
I'll tell you what I
Is it a
do on
12-hour?
Twitter.
what do you do on Twitter, Sean?
7 hours.
On Twitter, I put it. I put the Indian links to the things. Between like midnight, 5 a.m.
All right, I'll talk to my production staff that puts these out, and we'll see if
Dylan?
we can. We'll see if we can get the world clocks
So
going.
you're going to
okay?
call
We'll
me
just-
after this?
Yeah, I'll call you when we're done. All right. All right. So, all right, everybody. Great film. Great film. Good discussion. That was
Good
awesome.
to see
Charming,
all of our
satisfying,
fellow
And
Cine-Maniacs. in
Chris
here.
liked it.
Right.
So it
Yeah,
must be
Chris
good.
liked it. So, all right, everybody have a good week, and we'll see you next
Yes.
week.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a good week. Go to the
Enjoy
movies.
some film.